We are now recording. I will share the recording of this afterwards. So if you know people who wanted to be here, can't be here, or if you, after seeing it, know someone who would benefit from the content, by all means, share that recording out. I'm the first version of a recording library of admin HUG meetups is going to probably be on HubSpot community, and it's probably going to be a little not very pretty, but the recordings will be there and it'll be functional, and we will scale up from there as we scale up. So we are now about 2 minutes past. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go to it. So things every HubSpot admin needs to know. This is just my title slide from Inbound. My Inbound presentation had 3 sections, one about implementation, one about optimization, and one about troubleshooting. This is just the implementation section of the presentation. You will see as we go through these slides, I wrote in some activities, some questions for you to ponder. If any of you were present in Inbound, you know we did not pause even long enough for you to read those questions because there just wasn't time. I'm so grateful to have the space to expand each of these sections a little bit, have a little bit of room for us to interact and get to know each other. And I think that's going to be great. So to hop right into it, I am Kyle. This was the speaker slide Inbound supplied to me. There were 3 spots, so I just put myself 3 times. Many of you probably know me. If any of you are new to me, I teach at HubSpot Academy. I post a lot of videos on LinkedIn, and I'm now the leader of this HUG. Come to think of it, that's 3 roles. I could have used these 3 pictures differently. Maybe I'll do that next week. But I am just all in on helping admins in HubSpot succeed. I want you to feel seen and loved. I want you to feel supported. I want you to be empowered to do your job. I want to give you the education and the instruction you need to feel competent in your job. And this admin HUG is going to be a big part of that strategy for the rest of this year and into 2023 and forever afterward, I think. So this is the agenda I went through at Inbound. Again, we are just going to do this implementing HubSpot piece. And instead of it being 25 minutes, it's going to be an hour. And we are going to spend some time together. But one thing I want to mention up front is that there are lots of things that being a good admin requires you to do that are outside of HubSpot. We are only going to talk about the HubSpot stuff in these sessions. I want to show you where the features are, teach you the buttons to click, give you some best practices and tips and tricks to succeed inside of HubSpot. There are a lot of things like systems thinking and documentation and goal strategy and these sorts of things that will be really helpful to you if you have these skills. My advice on that is to connect with other people who are already doing the job. Find people who are ahead of you in that and connect with them. I highly recommend, if you haven't already, there's an unofficial HubSpot group called Sprocketeer. The URL for that is just sprocketeer.community, which does not really look like a URL, but if you type it into your URL, your web browser, you will get taken to their website. You can join their Discord channel. I've never used Discord before. This is the only reason I'm using Discord, but it's a very engaged community. It's a great place to, if you're stuck trying to figure out a workflow, you can share screenshots. Other people will jump on it. There's really powerful peer-to-peer learning happening there. And then also this HUG. You are here. I'm so glad you're here. Please continue participating. I am trying to think of ways we can make this more interactive and you can meet each other. When I had this slide up at Inbound, Inbound had these badges. You could push buttons and boop them together. And the promise was that it would like exchange contact information. It was in some senses pretty disappointing, but it was a thing we could do. Here it's a little harder to know exactly how we would do that. But I'm hopeful that in these events in the future, you'll be able to connect with each other. I would love for you to get friends and colleagues out of these meetings. People you can turn to when you're stuck, because that's where the real power is going to come from this community. And I just discovered at the beginning of this meeting, this platform we're using is called Bevy, and it has breakout rooms. I did not know that. I've never used the breakout rooms feature before. I'm not going to try it right in this instant, but I think in the future we will just put you all in rooms for like 60 seconds and let you meet each other and exchange information, because who knows, maybe the professional best friend you've been looking for, the colleague or the mentor you've always needed is right here in this meeting right now. And it would be a tragedy if you didn't get to meet them. So look forward to that. I am open to your suggestions of how I can make these meetings most helpful to you. I am hungry for input. I want to make sure we're spending our time together well. But I think for today, the best way to do that is just to hop straight into what I promised I would tell you, which is how to implement HubSpot. So let's talk about how the data gets into your HubSpot portal and how you can organize it and clean it up and make sure it's actually useful. In all of these sessions, I will divide things in this way. I recognize you're all using different HubSpot hubs. You all have different levels of subscriptions. Some of you are very new to HubSpot. Some of you are longtime HubSpot users. I want to be clear about what you have access to. So there are some basic things that regardless of what subscription you're using, you're going to have access to. That's importing and users and teams for this presentation. I will go deep on those things because I know that's most broadly applicable to all of you. I teach at HubSpot Academy sales things. So I am always biased towards Sales Hub. So in this presentation, the intermediate setup is for people who have Sales Hub Professional. The advanced setup is for people who have Sales Hub Enterprise. If you don't have those, I don't mean for this to be a sales pitch. I just want to be really transparent and clear about what you get in those subscriptions, so you can decide whether or not you actually need them. And the features we're talking about today, let me make sure. Yeah, none of these are actually unique to Sales Hub. So where you see Sales Hub Professional, you can insert Marketing Hub Professional or Service Hub Professional or any professional tier. You're going to get record customization, card customization, deduplicate records. Same for Enterprise, permission templates, hierarchical teams, presets, and field level permissions. These are all features that are just available in any Enterprise version of HubSpot. So that's where we're headed. So let's start with the basic stuff. So importing has gotten a ton of love from the product team over the course of 2022. We've seen a lot of huge improvements there. And I'm going to demo those to you. We're going to look especially at the pre and post import experience, and also the ability to associate parent and child companies inside of imports, which you couldn't do before a month or so ago. And then let's look at users and teams too. Let's just talk very basically about what those things are and how they work. So to hop right into HubSpot here, this is my test account where we are going to be spending a lot of time today. I assume any of you who have imported before have come up with your own favorite way of getting to the import tool. My favorite is just to go to contacts and click the import button. There is also an import section in the settings page that I think takes one additional click, which is why I go this way. And we're just going to start an import from my computer. You can, since I have a little space, let me talk through some things. You can import an opt-out list here if you want to do that. We're not going to do that today. We're actually pulling data in. Multiple files with associations is super fun. So if you want to pull in contacts and companies, for instance, you can have a contacts spreadsheet and a company spreadsheet and import them both at the same time. All you need is one column that is shared between the two, and then you map it out. I'm going to stick with just one spreadsheet this time. Similarly, I'm going to do just one object, but you can do multiple objects on a single spreadsheet. So example of deals and line items, you could do on a single spreadsheet, and you would identify associations by them being on the same row. My advice here is use two spreadsheets if it's not totally one-to-one, right? If you have a list of people and companies and it's one person per company and one company per person, a single spreadsheet is a great way to go because you can just have that all on a single line. But if you're in a world where you're importing a company and contacts, and you have a bunch of contacts at each company, then you're going to want to do two different spreadsheets and import them together. Again, today we're just doing one object, one spreadsheet. We're going to do companies because that's where parent-child relationships live. And I will find my spreadsheet here somewhere. Sorry. Inbound. Man, I can't find anything. It used to be alphabetical. It's not anymore. Give me a second. Oh, now you're seeing this. Awesome. Okay. I deleted everything on my computer before my inbound presentation, and then I undeleted it all, and now I have them back. So, all right, there it is. All right, now I will pull it in. Oh, you know what? It's already uploaded? All right, weird. Okay, I'm ahead of myself. Yes. Okay, this is good. Sorry about that. So this is a new part of the experience. We have added some validation to this mapping page. So you always used to have to map the columns of your spreadsheet to the properties inside your CRM. And that is still a thing you do here. But now we have this mapped column where we show green check marks if things are working well. So Names are looking good. Domain is looking good. We are only looking at the first 3 rows of the spreadsheet. By end of year, I am told, we will be looking at the first 100 rows, which for the vast majority of imports coming into HubSpot will be the entire spreadsheet, which will be awesome. But for now, it's just the first 3 rows. It's just kind of a gut check to make sure we're mapping things properly. Parent ID. This is where we can do that parent-child relationship. And instead of choosing a normal property, we're going to search for parent company. And what's going to happen here when it validates is not only do you get a green check mark, but you get this, it's a link, right? So I don't know if you can see Kino Global, Lexus, Toyota.com.Argentina, I think. We have a friend from Argentina. Is that your domain there? Let's just check to make sure, is this actually Toyota Motor Company? And yes, it is. Great. Okay, so we're importing that in the right spot. Great to validate that. This one is a drop-down select for territory. It looks like APAC and NAM were good, but LATAM, we're getting an error here. And if we click on this, we can see, that is not in our drop-down select. So right in the import flow, without changing anything else, we can edit the territory property. This sidebar shows up. Let's add an option for LATAM and save it. And now, ta-da, we get a green check mark there. Trade show. Looks like our dates here are not formatted the way we would like them to be. So that is year, month, day, looks like. So let's just tell it it's year, month, day. And now that error goes away too. We are giving you the ability to fix these things on the fly so that you don't have to start over with your spreadsheet. Now this one, number of booth visits. This is one I don't have a property for, but I'm just going to, in this flow, create a new property. We'll just put it in company information. Number of booth visits. I'm imagining I was a sponsor at a trade show or maybe like Inbound or something. And we just want to know the number of people for each account that stopped by. I don't know if that's the thing you would actually measure, but it seems reasonable. And we'll just make this a number property. Makes sense. And we'll create that. But now, we still got an error because NA, it's not a number. Why didn't you just leave it blank? And so we have this error, and I'm not going to be able to fix that in line here. That's something I would have to go back to my spreadsheet. And the reason I did this to myself for this demonstration is so I can show you, you can still continue on. You actually don't have to fix any of these errors. You could leave all the errors in place, and you could just continue through the import process. And at the end, you can download a list of all the errors. And that way, the ones that are set up right, import correctly, then you can struggle with the errors just on their own without having to worry about the whole spreadsheet. Whatever works best for you. We just want to make this as easy and pleasant as possible. So I'm just going to leave that as is and continue through. One feature that I would like to call out, this came out a year or more ago, but you can control whether or not the values coming in this spreadsheet will overwrite any existing values. So for companies, this is a company import, HubSpot deduplicates by domain name. For contacts, we deduplicate by email address. And so HubSpot will check and see, do we already have Lexus.com? And if so, it's going to update, the territory and the trade show date and the number of booth visits. Unless you click this, don't overwrite. And what that'll do is if it's a blank value currently in your CRM, we'll fill it in. But if there's a value there, we will default to what's in the CRM. When this is unchecked, the imported data will come and overwrite anything that's there. So that's a thing worth considering if you have a good idea of where the source of truth there actually is. So we will call this, I don't know, admin hug import. We'll give it a quick name. You can here select the date format. We already adjusted that, but you could adjust it here if you wanted to. And number format defaults to United States. But if you're doing different things with your commas, you can select your where you are located, and it will recognize your numbers appropriately. This only appears if you have a number property that you are importing, and we do the number of booth visits. But I'm going to leave it in United States because I'm in the United States, and also because I don't think any of my numbers were big enough to have a comma or a period or anything else in them. So we'll go ahead and finish this import. This is another thing that's fairly new in just the last few months. You get this post-import report page where you can see, how many rows are we importing? How many new records are we creating? How many records are we updating? This time we didn't update any existing records. How many new associations? And then you're also going to see your errors here. So one of my rows could not be imported because it had an invalid domain. Remember, domain is how companies are deduplicated inside of HubSpot. So if you have an invalid domain, that whole row we do not create a record for, which is why there are 18 rows, but only 17 new records. But that number of booth visits, right? We saw that NA was not a number. The error is could not parse number. Surprise, surprise. One value not imported. So this record was still imported, the one that had that swirly value, but that value is blank. And then this one, I don't know, record firm, I don't exactly know what happened here, but we could view details if we wanted to. So you get a little bit of look at your errors here. You can download the whole error file if you want. This is a fun page. I expect to see more features coming here. One that we added more recently is you can now, this is a bad example maybe. You can add these imported things to an existing static list if you want to. It could be I don't have any lists created, which is why I don't have that. So that is the importing experience as it currently exists. A lot of those features are pretty new. I am going to move on to users and teams. Debbie, any questions I should pause for before I do?
Absolutely. So we have a question from Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Why can't we create a list based on import if there's more than one object? For example, a company and a contact import. Would love a list for companies and the contacts. That's from Tim.
That's a great question. I will take that one back to the team. Tim, if you want to send that to me, connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't, and send that to me as a DM, or anyone here, if you have any thoughts or questions you want to discuss one-on-one, my email address is just kjepson, first initial, last name, kjepson @hubspot.com. Send that one to me, Tim, because that is not a thing I've thought about. One obvious limitation of lists is that we only currently support lists for contacts and for companies. So you're never going to be able to add like a deal import to a list at this point until we overcome that limitation. But you're right that if you are importing contacts and companies simultaneously, it seems reasonable that you should be able to add them to the contacts to a contact list and the companies to a company list. So send that one to me. I'm happy to explore it. Other questions?
We have one from Laura. She says, hi, Kyle. I spoke to you at Inbound. Was there a resolution to the fact that we can't merge accounts if there's a parent and child association? That's from Laura.
Laura. So actually, you and another person talked to me about this. And so I have not forgotten. That is just a current limitation in our merging process. I was able to find the team who owns our merging experience and send that feedback to them. HubSpot as a whole is in the midst of planning season right now. The last quarter of the year, we are figuring out our top priorities for 2023. So that team is no different. I have put a bug in their ear, but I do not know exactly what their priorities will be or how that will shake out. But that is one, since you and another person mentioned it to me at Inbound, I can imagine you are not alone in being frustrated by that limitation. If you haven't already, definitely go to ideas.hubspot.com, our ideas forum, and either find a suggestion someone else has made and upvote it, or make your own. That might sound like a cop-out, but I promise it isn't. Our product teams really do monitor the ideas forums, and the top ideas are consistently taken and turned into real features. Some take longer than others because some are harder to implement than others. But I would not, I can't overemphasize the importance of actually doing that. I have, like I said, told the engineering team that people want to be able to merge contacts regardless of whether they have parents. But having it documented on the ideas forum will also just be further evidence that they should build it.
All right. The final question here from Jairus, and he says, did all the number of booth visits get imported, not just the not applicables?
Yes. So all of the ones that are actually, so there was only one. I mean, here, let me, if I can find it, show you my spreadsheet. Who knows where this will open? Inbound Excel will take a second here. All right. Are you see? Oh, come on. Hold on. How do I gotta, oh dear. All right. Can you see? Come with me. Aha. Okay. So I only put one NA in. So what happened, we have, it looks like 18 rows as we saw in our post import. All of these are numbers. So the 17 that are numbers got imported. Every company in my CRM now has a number of booth visits property. This one, Lexus, it will have a blank value. If we went and looked at that record, that there would just be nothing there because it's a number property and this is not a number. But all the rest, all these numbers got imported. Does that answer your question? Hopefully.
And I think that's about it for now.
Cool. So let's hop into users and teams. This one's a bit shorter. We will circle back later when we get into enterprise features. But if you go to your settings and just click on users and teams, here you can see all of the users in your account. This is an area only super admins can access. And for any given user, you can set permissions for them. And it's kind of broken out in different ways. So here you see a list of all of our objects. And for each one, you can determine for view, so the ability to actually see the records, edit, the ability to change those records, and delete, the ability to delete those records. Is someone going to see everything, team only, or owned only, or for some of these, none? So everything means literally everything. If there's a record, in this case, a contact record in your account, if I give this person everything access, they get everything all the way across the board, because I mean, you can't delete something you can't edit, and you can't edit something you can't view. Team only means if you've organized your users into teams, which we'll see just a second, this person would be able to delete anything owned by their team. Owned only means them specifically. So maybe they can view, everything their team views, everything their team owns. They can edit only the things they own, and they can delete nothing, right? That would be very reasonable. And then this unassigned check box appears anytime you do team only or owned only. And this just decides for records that do not have an assigned owner, can this particular contact see those? If you give everybody team only or owned only view access, for instance, and nobody has this unassigned checkbox checked, then none of your users are going to be able to see those records that are not assigned to anybody. Maybe you want that, right? Maybe you give a manager or an operations person or some admin specific access to be able to see the unassigned ones, and then they can divvy them out, and those are invisible to everyone else. Or maybe doing that would mean that unassigned contacts just get forgotten and never get worked. And so you want to allow people to find and claim those unassigned contacts. Whatever works best for you, you can do that. One thing I want to call out is, for as long as HubSpot has existed, for whatever reason, contacts and companies' permissions were merged together. Just in the last week or so, we finally separated them out. So now contacts can be assigned differently than companies. So that's really great. Custom objects for now are still lumped all together, but I expect someday this same miracle will occur, and you'll be able to do separate permissions for different objects that you have created. So that is users. And it's worth noting, so this user here, I'm actually logged in as him over here. As you turn access to things on and off, it will impact a lot of things. You can see my main navigation here. I logged in as this user is much smaller than my main navigation here, where I have access to everything, right? So as you turn off access to different features and things, you can do that object level by CRM. I've turned off his marketing access. I've turned off his sales access, right? You can really restrict what aspects of HubSpot a person is able to interact with. So that's users. This next tab over is teams. And a team is just simply a collection of users. You can put them together. And the main impact this is going to have is that view, edit, delete access that we were just looking at. If you put Andre, that we were just looking at, in a group with other sales users, if he's a BDR, for example, and if you give them access to view owned only or team only, if you give them access to view team only contacts or companies or deals, then they will only be able to see each other's deals on their own team. They will not be able to see other teams or other people's deals. And so you can create teams pretty easily. You just give them a name. You assign users to them. One thing that's worth noting is the difference between primary and additional team members. So if you have, for instance, a professional level subscription of HubSpot, you have access to workflows. And there's a workflow action that lets you rotate leads to your sales team. That's a very useful action. That will only, and if you have an action that rotates leads to team A, for instance, it will only rotate them to the primary team members, not to the secondary team members or additional team members. Similarly, if you create a report of team activity, right? Who is making the most phone calls, who is sending the most emails, that will only take into consideration the primary team members, not the additional team members. But those permissions of being able to view and edit and delete records, that takes into account the additional team members. And the thinking here is, if you do have a sales team, and maybe you have a marketer who supports that sales team, right? The marketer needs access to those records to see what's going on, to send relevant content, to be helpful. But you probably don't want the marketer getting leads rotated to them. You probably don't want the marketer showing up on activity reports, because that's just going to throw everything off, because that's not the marketer's job. So primary team members get not just access to everything, but they get leads rotated to them. They show up on reports. Additional team members have access to everything, but do not show up in workflows and reports. Parent team we'll get to later, because that's an enterprise feature. But that's a quick peek at users and teams. Any questions about that, Debbie?
No questions about users and teams, but there's a highly upvoted question from Tate. He says,
Okay.
when you go to the duplicates page for both contacts and companies, it shows you possible matches, but only refreshes every few weeks, and it doesn't allow you to download the list. Any possibility of allowing us to export the list? That's from Tate.
That's a great question, Tate. So I will get to deduplication next. But now I'm going, I don't know. I'm lost. We're all confused now. But to answer your question, it is that screen is pretty limited in its functionality. For a long time, you were only able to deduplicate contacts or deduplicate records, accept or reject the suggestions one at a time. We finally, just earlier this year, gave you the ability to do that in bulk, which is a huge step forward. But the ability to export those records, the ability to do some of the other things you're mentioning, these are feature requests I have heard from others as well. I do not know, honestly, what is planned next for that space. And I don't know of any workarounds to help you get what you're looking for exactly. So unfortunately, my answer there is not right now. And I don't even have a way to make you feel better by saying I have the inside scoop on when it will get better. But the fact that we did add bulk actions to that page earlier this year gives me some confidence that page has not been entirely forgotten and neglected. So hopefully improvements will come there. But I honestly, I don't have any insider information to suggest that that'll happen on any particular time frame.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Kyle. So here's one from Stacy. She says, are the permissions for contacts or companies matched up with what they were when they were first single permissions, or do we need to go through our users and update now they've been split out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have preserved whatever you had in place is still in place. Nothing has changed. Nothing has shifted. You just have more granular ability to change things. So if, for example, historically, this guy had access to team owned and none, right? So this is aligned. But now if you want to change his level of access to contacts or companies without affecting the other one, you can now come in and do that. But not if you did have team only owned only and none for contacts and companies. Now, if you go to contacts and companies, you'll see exactly what you're seeing here, where they are just identical clones of each other.
All right. Tim says, will there be an ability to assign permissions and visibility to teams based on CRM data rather than ownership, similar to the way that SFDC does it today? Some of our enterprise clients do not make the switch to HubSpot for the fear of permissions and record visibility. Thanks. That's from Tim.
Interesting. So something I should just confess to all of you right up front is I've never actually used Salesforce. And I know that's a point of reference for a lot of you, but I am lost anytime we go to that world. So I don't know exactly what you mean when you're saying based on data. So I don't know. I can't really help there. And I mean, you might be typing right now some clarifying remarks, but I honestly don't know what is planned next for permissions. This would be a good one. Send me a message on LinkedIn or send me an email kjepson@hubspot.com. I'm happy to track down the team who owns this page and find out what they have planned for the future. If you can give me a few talking points, I'm happy to get them to the right place and come back with an answer. But that's not one I'm going to be able to answer live right now.
All right, great. So I'm going to ask the last two questions together. One is from Ruben and the other is from Dana. Ruben says, when you select team only, how does that impact child-parent teams?
That's a great question. I have not played around enough with child-parent teams to know exactly how permissions there work, but we just imported a whole bunch. So let's take a look. If we look at Toyota, who is the parent, do we have anybody see owner here? All right, we'll just look at all properties here. We'll find the owner. We will assign this to, oh yeah, there's no owner. So we'll assign this one to our friend Andre, who we know can view team, but can only edit the ones he actually owns. And then if we go back to where are, did I not do this right? Anyway, let's go to one of these other ones. Daihatsu. And if we go to the owner for Daihatsu and set that to me, how about? Great. Then let's just make sure real quick. Okay, yeah, that is related. I don't know why I wasn't thinking the other way. Cool. If we go to companies here real quick and look for, are we on the same team? All right, this might not be a very interesting demo for you all. Maybe send me that one too. I'll play around with it a bit, Tim. Was it Tim and Ruben? And I can figure out what's expected there. Yeah, I'll just have to play around with it a little bit.
And the final one is, any chance we're going to get team organization models like we just have for data model overviews?
Oh, like this guy here, but seeing the organization. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know if you're familiar with Org Chart Hub. They let you do that for your contacts. I don't know if anybody's thought about doing that for users. Honestly, HubSpot is pretty new to serving companies large enough that would make sense. We are thinking very hard about how we make life easier for these upmarket customers, and you will see some of that in the enterprise features we talk about. But again, I don't know exactly what's planned, so I don't know.
All right.
We good?
Going. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was my live demo. You saw it. So I want to just give you a minute to ponder on some of this. So we looked at imports, we looked at users. I'm curious, and I'd love to know if you want to drop in the chat, how often do you actually import things? Does your company import things? I know a lot of people think of importing as like a thing you do when you're initially setting up HubSpot, but there definitely are instances where, because you use another system that you don't have, that there is no native integration for, or because you do offline activities, you've got to import content or data into HubSpot. And I'm curious, how often are you all doing that? And are these features helpful in that? And then something just for you to kind of ponder internally is who's in charge of the permissions at your company? Is that you? Are you using them effectively? Do you feel like? Are there open questions you have, things you want to investigate? We've looked at a few features. Do any of these features, are they things you should implement, right? For example, the contacts and companies division. Are there changes you now need to make because that is an option to you, or is everything all good and you'll just leave it the way it is? I want you to think for a bit about how you might implement some of the stuff we're talking about here. Sorry, this is going to look ugly for a second. I can now see the chat. Oh, yeah, imports to modify data is super interesting. Yeah, okay, I hear you. So it seems like users and permissions is an area you guys have lots of thoughts and feedback. Maybe I will see if I can orchestrate an admin hug meetup with the team that owns that, because it seems like they could benefit from being able to import blank things. And yeah, okay, this is great. Imports, I think it sounds like there's a lot we could do with users and imports in future meetings that is useful to me. Now let's talk about some of the more intermediate stuff. So once you move up to a professional tier, you have some ability to customize your records and your cards, and then also deduplicate records, which we already talked a little bit about deduplication. So I'll do these in reverse order just to show you the deduplication screen. Here I am on contacts, and there's this actions drop down, and you can manage duplicates. And we will look through your records and, using a little bit of machine learning, try to identify ones that we think are likely duplications. So for instance, here we found that there is kjepson@hubspot.com. Again, my real email address, feel free to use it. kjepson2 and kjepson3 are also here. They got me. These are dummy addresses. They are not real. And we should probably just review and merge these records. Similarly, apparently, we picked up on the fact that I like to use Josh Groban as a dummy contact when I'm demoing things on LinkedIn. I have had him working at Apple. I've had him working at Asus. Same guy. He probably has never worked either of those places, but again, we could merge those records. So as I mentioned, for a long time, this was a thing you had to do one at a time. You would review, you would decide which one's going to be the primary, and then you would merge them, or you could reject it. Either way, you are teaching the machine learning, and it gets smarter and hopefully better at finding these duplicates in the future. You can now do these in bulk if you want, and you can do this mass reviewal process. Choose which one you're going to keep, the most recent or oldest or first or last or whatever you want, and get through them all quickly that way. You have contacts, you have companies, but my companies doesn't have any examples here. As was mentioned, it's a pretty limited feature. It does exist. If you have thousands of duplicates here, it is probably in some ways helpful and in some ways just infuriating, but I do hope to see improvements here in the future. As for record and card customization, actually, let's look at a record real quick. So here's a record for my wife. On the left, you have properties about this, in this case, this person, this contact. On the right, you have kind of a long list of all these different associated records and like list memberships and workflow memberships. And until recently, you were not really able to edit this at all, but now you can. And then the middle is a timeline of all the contact and interactions you've had with this person. There are lots of different things that appear here. You can filter it in a variety of ways to see what's going on. Every user coming to a page like this can look at this sidebar here, the About This contact, and click View All Properties and see the full list of properties and add and remove properties here, unless you as the admin have selected certain ones to be non-negotiable. So first name, last name, phone number, contact owner, these ones cannot be removed by an end user because they are set as defaults. So that experience, but talking points, whatever that is, lifecycle stage, I can get rid of those if I want. And I could add annual revenue if I wanted to, because why not? And then I could rearrange these into different orders. To set the default priorities, I'll just click this button here, but this is in your contact settings, as you'll see in just a second. And you can expand this, you can see the ones that are here. And if there are things you want to add as part of the default, you can add them here. You could remove them here, right? If we decide contact owner we actually don't care about, we could take this. Yeah, we're actually going to edit it this time. So this is kind of the most basic experience here. Where it starts to get really fun is you can start adding sections. So I don't know if you saw on the contact we were on, there was opportunity info showing up there. You can create new sections to go below this About This contact section and make them have different properties inside of them. And so you can do that if you have a professional account. You can add these sections. If you have an enterprise account, you can make them conditional. So if we add a section called, I don't know, lead info. Have I done that one? I have. MQL info. How about? We can make it conditional. on, say, any property, but how about life cycle stage? And we are only going to show this when life cycle stage is marketing qualified lead, right? And then we can add relevant, maybe conversion information, first conversion date. Maybe these are the things we want to go in there. So anytime we're looking at MQL, we're going to see this stuff. But once they become an SQL, or once they become a customer, or whatever they turn into, that disappears, and maybe then we see a different set of information. That is pretty powerful. Another thing that's super handy at the enterprise level is you can make sidebars based on teams. So if I just save this and get out of here, if I want to create a new sidebar, right, I can have it for just team A or just team B. I've already created views for both of those, so that's not a good example at this point. But if you think of like your sales team and your service team, they might want to see different bits of information, right? And within each of those sidebars, you could have conditional sections. So now when a sales user comes and looks at a record, they might see different bits of information than the service team member would see coming at that and looking at that record. And they both might see different bits of information depending on whether the person is in a particular life cycle status or some other property is set to a particular thing. In this way, you can make sure your teams are seeing the information that's most relevant and timely for them, whatever the circumstances. So you can go nuts there. Some of that, like I said, is professional level. You can create sidebars and things there. If you want to do the conditional values and the different sidebars for different teams, that's at the enterprise level. So those are the sidebars. That's the left sidebar anyway. You can now customize the right sidebar. And if we just want to edit the default right sidebar, most often what you're going to want to do here is just come in and remove a bunch of stuff. Maybe you don't care about contact create attribution. Maybe you don't care about fast feedback. Maybe you don't use sales navigator. Maybe people don't need to see list memberships. You might want to keep workflow memberships if people are enrolling people from there, but maybe subscriptions we don't care about. Maybe attachments we don't use. Maybe some of these custom objects we don't care. We can just simplify this sidebar a lot. And that is going to make everyone's life a whole lot better. And again, at the enterprise level, you can create sidebars for different teams. Sidebar A, team A might want to see different things in that sidebar than team B. Really nice that you're able to do that now. So those are the sidebars. Something that is just kind of developing and I haven't fully wrapped my head around is some customization you can do of that center pane. So at a most basic level, you can customize an additional tab and put, different information here. So maybe some data highlights. Maybe this is where we want to put some of our custom objects, right? We'll take them out of the right-hand sidebar and put them in this middle pane. I can show you real quick what that looks like if we go back to the contact. And then if you are a developer type person, you can go really crazy and build all sorts of custom stuff to go in this middle pane. I am not that guy, so I'm not the one to teach you about that. But here we can see, here's the data highlight I put in here. My wife apparently doesn't have a car, but she does have a pet named Fluffy. I wish I knew where Fluffy was hiding. I've never met him or her. So those are the sidebars. Card customization, when we talk about cards, this is a card right here. This is a card right here. So I'm on a contact record. I'm seeing a card that gives a little bit of information about an associated company. I'm seeing a card here that gives a little bit of information about an associated deal. You can now also customize the properties that appear here. So this, if you want to change how a contact appears when you're looking at it from another record, right? So if I'm looking at the company record and I see a list of contacts over here, I can change that card right here, right? And name and job title are the defaults, but maybe email, right? Maybe we don't want that on the card. Maybe we want, fax number, right? That's useful. You can adjust this to be what you need it to be. You can do that for all of your object types. One that is a little bit different in a good way is deals. So deals, if you go to record customization, you're going to see this little moving truck icon that says, we move these. So association cards, that's still here, right? When I was looking at Katie's record, there was a deal card there. And here is where you would change what appears on that, right? If you want to, it's amount, close date, and deal stage right now, but you could alter that. But the thing that moved, the thing that's new and fun is under pipelines, you can choose what appears on the deal card in your drag and drop deal pipelines. And you can change it per pipeline. So I have a bunch of different pipelines set up. Maybe in my basic pipeline, I want my deals to show certain, like this makes sense, right? Amount and close date. But maybe in a different pipeline, if I have like a delivery pipeline or something, I want different things to appear. It turns out you folks use multiple pipelines because you do very different things in your different pipelines, and you want the ability to customize those cards in each one. You now have that ability here per pipeline to customize those cards. So I believe that's everything I promised you in this section. I'll just pull up my pondering questions. You can ponder these questions. Debbie, are there questions I should be pondering?
Absolutely. So we have a highly upvoted question from John A. Is there a way for contact fields to not update when they fill out a new form?
So similar to what I was saying about imports, there was that do not override button. You want to have a form that if they enter a value and there's already a value in the CRM, it will not override. Is that how you understand the question, Debbie?
It says it won't update. Like, is there a way for the contact fields to not update when they fill out a new form?
Okay, if I'm understanding this rightly, forms and marketing stuff is not my forte, but I think I do know the answer to this one. So what I would do is if we went to a form, and if we, sure, we'll just create a form. Oh dear, I'm gonna regret that. How about we'll do a standalone page? That's fine. And we'll do a blank one. Yep. Okay. So, first name, for instance, if we wanted this to not update, I would make this, someone help me out. There's a setting here where you can make it disappear if we already know a value. So they won't even be able to fill it in, which I think gets at what you want. I assume you would not want to collect new information at all to override the information in your CRM. Am I understanding the question right, John A? I think that is probably what you want to do. So, yeah. I just don't remember exactly how to do that off the top of my head. If you really want info on it, let me know. I can imagine there are lots of folks here on the call who know exactly how to do it and are pulling your hair out because I can't remember.
I'm trying to see if there are any like updates from Johnny in the chat pane, but I can't see any. But I'm guessing probably another use case would probably be if someone submits a ticket and one ticket is for one problem, and then you don't want them to try and submit another form for a ticket and then think it's the same problem. Like you want it to create something else completely. It's also a complaint, but about something completely different. So I'm not sure if that's
Johnny, I'm happy to talk through this and brainstorm with you. Send me a message and give me some more details on your specific use case, and I'll probably shoot you a Loom or something, a short video showing how to do what you're asking to do once I understand it better.
All right, quick one. Stacy says, are there any plans to be able to customize association cards by team?
Ooh, that's interesting. I don't know. I am blind to a lot of what's being worked on. HubSpot's product org is huge. That one sounds very reasonable to me. I would expect it to be sort of an enterprise feature, since that seems to be where all the other team-based customization happens. But I like that idea a lot, and I could see it happening, but I don't have the inside information on that.
All right, great. Shadab says, can we change the primary display property for custom objects once created?
Not currently in the UI, I don't think. I believe that is a possibility through the API. But I sort of doubt there's a way to do that in the UI. I'm not going to click around and explore. If you really want me to dig deeper into it and get you an official answer, shoot me that question. But I feel moderately confident, 75% confident that yes through the API, no through the UI.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we have some questions about duplicates. Is that something that you're getting into? So I could save those questions for after you talk about that?
No, give them to me now.
All right, excellent. So we have also for duplicates from Amelia, is it on the roadmap to fill a property on the company or contact record if the manage duplicates AI has identified it as a possible duplicate. This would open the door to duplicate source reporting and pulling lists identified as duplicate records.
Yeah. So another question I got at Inbound, and I don't know if this was in the same conversation I had with Laura or if it was with someone else. There seems to be a lot of confusion and hopes and requests and dreams for the way contacts are merged and deduplicate inside of HubSpot. I have asked the team about that. If there's a way to like choose which specific values you're going to keep, or, you know, if they're blank, keep one and not the other. That team is, like I said, making their plans for the new year. There are apparently lots of ideas and requests around how merging should work in HubSpot. And so it is unclear which will be prioritized first. But I think someday something like that will be possible. I just am unable to promise exactly what it'll look like or when it'll come.
All right, excellent. And we have one from Michelangelo. He says, is modify in bulk in deduplication tool available for Sales or Marketing Pro? Sounds like an ops hub something.
So if you're talking about here, all right, here, get to the manage duplicates. All right, so here, check this thing here to do this in bulk. This is just standard pro feature. I don't think it matters which hub you have.
Okay, great. And there's a question from Stacy, but I'm not sure. Okay, let's see. Says, how do we set them as default on the about this card? So I'm not sure. I think.
Yeah. So so honestly, the easiest way to get there is the way I showed you before. But if we are here, record customization, I believe, right, left. Yes. So just here. No, sorry. Create sidebar. No, this one. Contact left sidebar. So oh my goodness, edit. Oh, there's an edit button. Perfect. Okay. So this is the about section here. Adding things here is what sets them as default. So we can add things, and these are now the default ones. Does that answer your question? Hopefully.
How do we set them? Okay, yeah, that's it. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So despite having given myself an hour to get through what I spent like 25 minutes on at Inbound, I am almost out of time. So we will do this part really quickly. Permission templates, hierarchical themes, presets, and field level permissions. What I mean by permission templates, if we go to users and teams, this is an enterprise feature. When you create a new user, like this person, ta-da, you have this ability to start with a default permission set. And we have just created a bunch of these for you. So this is a standard user, which is just kind of generic. But if you're adding a sales rep, you'll see they get full access to contacts, companies, and deals, only partial access to tickets. Whereas if we're doing a services rep right there, it's just the opposite: partial access to deals, full access to tickets. And then on the next page, you can customize this as you want. And then as you add new users, you can apply this permission set to them. And that is a really handy way to do things quickly. So if you want to have a particular person in a particular role, or your new hires or whatever have limited access to certain things, full access to other things, you can set that up once and then apply it to people in bulk. It's an enterprise feature. Hierarchical teams, which is an awful name and will change soon, is what I was teasing a little earlier when I talked about this parent team. So you can make one team a parent of another team. The way to think about that is the parents have access to everything the child teams have. So if you think of like a manager and the sub teams that are below them, the manager would be the parent and the sub teams would be the kids, the child teams. And that can be really handy if you have, teams nested within other teams. Again, that's an enterprise feature. The thing you all should be most excited about is presets. This was coming soon when I gave my Inbound presentation. It is now live. And when I gave my Inbound presentation, I put it here because I thought it was going to be an enterprise feature. but it is a pro and enterprise feature. So if you have anything pro, anything professional, you have the ability to create these presets. And presets gives you the ability to select a homepage for the person. So that's where they'll land when they first log into HubSpot. And it's also where they'll go when they hit the sprocket in the main navigation. You can choose a default dashboard for them. So when they navigate to their dashboards, or if that's their homepage that they land on, like it is for me, which dashboard will come up by default. You can choose their language and their date and number format. And you can also set their email signature. And the email signature, you can personalize with information from their user profile. So if you want to, their email signature to include their phone number and their meeting link and their profile picture, you can totally do that. If you want to get super fancy, you can do full HTML and put whatever you want in there. And just so you're aware of what the user, the personalization tokens look like, it's user dot whatever it is, first name in these double brackets. So you can set this up once, and then you can just add it to as many users as you want. We're going to standardize everybody's email signature and homepage and stuff, and we can save it. So that is new, and that's very exciting. Field level permissions, man, we got like 3 minutes. Field level permissions is for properties. So field level. For a long time now, you could choose a particular property, like annual revenue, and you could go to assign users and teams, and you could change who can edit it. Now, more recently, and again, this is an enterprise feature, you can choose who gets to view and edit it. So maybe you want some people to be able to view it, but not edit it. You want some people to be able to view and edit it. You want some people to just have straight up no access to it so they can't see it at all. So this was annual revenue, right? So if I save this to no access, if Andre here, who doesn't have access to very many things, tries to come into a contact and see annual revenue, he will get this icon. So he can see that the property exists, but he cannot tell whether or not there's a value in it. And if there is a value, he can't see what it is. So this gives you more granular control over what people are able to see. So I'm going to stop there because we have 2 minutes left.
A quick question, a quick burning question. If we set up a default email signature, would it override signatures that we already have set up? So I'm sure that's
so this question's been coming up a lot, and it sort of depends on what you mean. If you have your signature set up in Gmail or Outlook or whatever, that preset will have no power there. In Gmail or Outlook, Gmail and Outlook insert a signature, and that's where it comes from. If you're talking about the signatures inside of HubSpot for people who are, like, for example, navigating to a contact record and sending an email, I believe those will be overwritten. I haven't tested that, but that is my understanding. So we have 1 minute left. I did get through the main part of the content. There was a little more I want to do with fun demos of Operations Hub. I'll save that for another presentation. But I hope this was helpful. One thing I would very, very much appreciate, I'm going to drop in the chat right now a link to a survey. Just give me some feedback. I am very new at running a hug. I've spoken at a lot of hugs. I've never run one before. I would love to know, did this meet your expectations? Did it give you what you wanted? Do you like the format? Are there things you would like to see me cover in the future? The survey is just 2 questions. One is give me a score between like 1 and 10. And the other is just a free field text box. Give me feedback. Let me know what you love, what you hate, what you want to see in the future, what you want to see less of in the future. I'd really appreciate it. In the 10 seconds that are left, Debbie, thank you so much. I could not have done this without you. And everyone who came, 92 people currently. That's incredible. Not bad for a first run. I will be back next week with a second part of this presentation. And I'm really excited to help you guys however I can. So we're at the hour. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to stop the recording.